But now, 50 years later, the system needs to change again.
Today, the system falls short of the public's expectations, being congested, slow, clunky, unpleasant.
As planes fly faster and higher, it becomes harder for controllers to track their movements.
I think in many respects we're in a very similar situation to where we were in the 50s. The system has to change massively.
And the change must happen soon, before we are faced with a major air accident that could take the lives of hundreds of people. The technology on board the FAA flight might be the solution to the overtaxed air traffic control system. Test pilots regularly take to the skies to help researchers prepare the new system for America's airliners.
The beautiful thing about ADS-B is it gives the pilots in the cockpit and the air traffic controllers basically the same picture.
ADS-B is more than a map of other planes. The idea is to show pilots what now only air traffic controllers can see. Data about the planes that are in a pilot's airspace.
With ADS-B, you'll see who that other aircraft is. You'll see an identifier on it.
You'll be able to see planes on runways. You'll see planes in the traffic pattern, and you'll get a better feel for what's going on around you, especially if you're on an uncontrolled airport.
We can also see map information. We can see navigational aids. We can also see other airports.
Giving pilots all that information in the cockpit will allow them to make decisions about how to get to their destinations quickly and safely.
The current system relies on radars for the detection and tracking of aircraft. And radar was a great technology in 1940, but fundamentally it's very sloppy.
Today, ground-based radar bounces radio signals off an airplane to calculate its position. It can be off by as much as 2 miles.
That's why we keep aircraft 3 miles or more apart, because we're just not that confident of the solution.
With NextGen, an onboard GPS unit will constantly receive signals from a GPS satellite. This will tell pilots where they are, down to within a few hundred feet. With a more accurate picture of airspace, airliners will be able to fly closer together. The FAA hopes this will help relieve the congestion at busy airports. Today, only controllers have an accurate picture of air traffic. They use this information to guide pilots around potential problems. The pilots themselves have no way to independently confirm where they are in relation to all other flights. They must rely on controllers to tell them. The weakness of the system was exposed years before next-gen tests began. Labor Day weekend, 1986.
Aeromexico 498, traffic 10 o'clock.
Approach controller Walter White guides Aeromexico Flight 498 in for a landing at Los Angeles International Airport. The airspace around LAX is very tightly controlled. It's called the TCA, the Terminal Control Area. As Aeromexico Flight 498 closes in on the airport, Walter White sees a plane he does not expect on his radar.
One approach on a flight from Fullerton.
Cruising altitude is 4,500. We'd like to follow.
Okay, you are right in the middle of the TCA, sir.
Roman 66 Romeo, I suggest in future you look at your TCA chart.
There was an aircraft that was east of the airport which he became involved in. That was what they called a violator.
In many cases, the air traffic that was crawling across his screen, even with transponders, were not reporting altitudes.
Walter White hustles the small plane out of the controlled airspace.
You just had an aircraft pass right off your left above you at
5,000, and we run a lot of jets right through there at 3,500.
But White doesn't realize that there's another plane, dangerously off course.
We should be able to see the ocean by now. Take a look at the map and look around the 4-5.
A Piper Cherokee is cutting across the approach to LAX. oblivious to the danger. The Aeromexico flight is just minutes from landing.
Aeromexico 498.
Los Angeles approach.
This can't be.
The jet plunges towards Cerritos, a suburban community of Los Angeles.
Aeromexico 498.
Los Angeles approach.
I'm sitting there talking with the two departure controllers and not really thinking. I hear Walter say something like,
I think I lost one. Aeromexico 498, Los Angeles approach.
that immediately got everybody's attention. So we looked at the radars and could hear him calling Aeromexico 498.
The crash devastates the community of Cerritos. 15 people on the ground are killed in the disaster, along with all 64 people on the Aeromexico jet. The Piper Cherokee is found in a nearby schoolyard. All 3 people on the small plane have been killed. The National Transportation Safety Board questions Walter White about what he saw on his radar display.
At any time, did you see the Piper Cherokee on your scope?
No. No, sir. The Piper's target was not displayed. It is my belief that it was not on my radar scope.
He was positive that the aircraft was not there for him to see.
But when investigators finally get the air traffic control radar records, they conclude the Piper should have been visible.
Did you see the Piper Cherokee on your scope?
No, sir.
But that doesn't mean that the target isn't there. A blind spot is only an instantaneous thing. It's not a continuous thing.
He was looking at one and trying to keep it clear. Lost track of another one that just happened to be at the same altitude as the approaching Aeromexico jet. It was a 1 in a billion chance, but that 1 in a billion came up that particular day.
The collision over Los Angeles drew attention to weaknesses in the radar systems used by air traffic controllers and led to some much-needed improvements.
Mode C Intruder is an automated program that is now incorporated in all our major radar facilities, that if an aircraft should inadvertently intrude, the controller will now be given a visual and an oral alert, thus giving him time to provide a timely warning to the pilot.
After the collision over Los Angeles, radar systems at the airport were upgraded. The next generation of air traffic management will only use radar if the GPS system fails. NextGen is also targeting another weakness in the current system, the radio. Today, pilots and controllers use radios to talk to one another.
We're now descending to 190 and expecting...
The system depends on clear, precise language. Misunderstandings are common, and they've caused some of the most tragic air disasters in history. As the FAA test flight flies high west of Atlantic City, its radio keeps the pilots in touch with controllers.
Vector for sequence for the downwind for runway 20.
Okay, 100, clear for the ILS.
But in the air traffic system of the future, pilots and controllers will communicate less frequently.
The controller and the pilot can now work together to resolve issues instead of wasting a lot of time explaining what the issues are.
Mistakes can be made for a number of reasons. English is the international language of aviation, but pronunciation, accent, and emotion alter the way any language is spoken. Nowhere is this better understood than in the air traffic control tower at John F. Kennedy International Airport.
If you listen on any control frequency, you're going to hear a lot of people say, "Would you say that again? Say again, over, please."
The airspace above JFK is frequented by one of the most international collections of pilots in the world. Maintaining clear radio communications can prove challenging to controllers here.
There's pressure because that's the business they're in. The business is moving